Right after giving birth, my mother-in-law stormed into the hospital room and announced, "The baby will sleep in my room, not yours." My husband smiled and said, "She knows best." I bit my lip and reached for my bag, whispering to the nurse, "Time to show him the papers." His mother screamed as he read the truth. I, 28 female, gave birth last year at Johns Hopkins in Baltimore. My son is perfect. Everything around that moment though, the labor, the people, the aftermath, is something I'll never forget, and not in a good way. This is the story of how my mother-in-law tried to steal my newborn, how my husband stood by and said nothing, and how I decided that moment was the last time I'd let anyone else control my life. Let me explain. Me, 28, worked in UX, very average person just trying to live my life. My, now ex-husband, let's call him Ryan, 32, works in IT security. Not a bad guy when I met him. Things changed. Ryan's mom, Sharon, overbearing, manipulative, treats her adult son like he's still in diapers. My best friend, Kat, attorney, practical and protective. One nurse, Mel, an MVP in scrubs. Ryan and I met in DC at a tech event. Moved to Baltimore together within the year. Things were good for a while. We got engaged. Then married. That's when Sharon turned from a little much into something else entirely. She came over uninvited. Commented on my cooking, my clothes, my hair. If I wore sweatpants in my own house, she called me lazy. When I said I didn't plan to quit work after having kids, she said, "That's going to be a problem." She never liked me. I don't think she ever tried to. Still, Ryan would say the same thing every time I brought it up. She just wants to help. She's trying to be involved. That's how she shows love. No, that's how she showed control. And he never stopped it. I got pregnant in early 2023. Sharon acted like she was pregnant. That's the best way I can put it. She redecorated a room in her house into a nursery. Without asking me, she bought a crib, a bassinet, formula, even though I told her I planned to breastfeed, and a full drawer of newborn clothes for her house. I told her we wouldn't be traveling with a newborn. She smiled and said, "We'll see." She also insisted on being in the delivery room. I told her no. She cried, like full-on sobbing. Said I was tearing the family apart. Ryan told me I was being dramatic. I wasn't. I was exhausted. Ryan worked late constantly. I was going to appointments alone. I was managing everything while dealing with back pain, nausea, and barely sleeping. The one thing that kept me going was my friend Kat. She helped me organize my files. She helped me document things. She said, "If this gets worse, we're going to be ready." She had no idea how ready we'd need to be. I went into labor early one Thursday. I woke up with pain so sharp I thought I was being stabbed. My water broke all over our bedroom floor. We rushed to the hospital. The pain was unreal. I was in labor for 17 hours. Pushed for 3. My son, let's call him Caleb, came into the world screaming and red and beautiful. I cried. I held him. I kissed his head and promised him I would never let anyone hurt him. Ryan stood there awkwardly. He looked tired but not emotional. I remember thinking something felt off, but I was too tired to dwell on it. Then, barely an hour after the nurses cleaned me up and handed me a sandwich, Sharon came into the room. Full makeup, hair curled, long church dress. Like she was showing up to Easter Sunday, not her grandson's birth. She walked in like she owned the place. No knock, no pause. Looked down at Caleb like she was inspecting something she bought online. Then she looked at me, nodded, and said, "He's perfect. He'll sleep in my room tonight. He needs to bond with me early." Like she had rehearsed that line. I stared at her. "Excuse me?" I said. She turned to Ryan. He just shrugged and gave a half smile. Like this was all fine. "Mom's done this before. She knows what's best. You'll get some rest," he said. That moment. That exact moment. Everything went cold. My heart, my face, my bones. I had Caleb in my arms and I was shaking. I didn't yell. I didn't argue. Instead, I looked at the nurse, Mel, bless her, and said quietly, "Can you hand me my bag, please?" She nodded. Passed it to me. I opened it, pulled out the envelope. Inside that envelope, divorce papers, petition for full custody, copies of texts between Ryan and Sharon planning how to transition the baby into Sharon's home routine, screenshots of her telling Ryan she's emotional. "Just agree with her now. We'll get the baby adjusted to our place soon." Audio recording where Sharon said, "Once the baby comes, she'll be irrelevant. I raised 2 boys. I know what I'm doing. She can visit if she's respectful." And lastly, a DNA test showing Caleb wasn't Ryan's. I handed it all to Ryan. He flipped through the first page and turned pale. He looked at me, looked at Sharon, then at the baby. "Is this some kind of joke?" he asked. No, I said. That's your copy. He tried to keep reading. Sharon leaned over to snatch the papers. She read a few lines, then screamed. Like a wild, piercing, horror movie kind of scream. I watched her face turn red, eyes wide, jaw clenching like she was about to spit venom. Here's what Ryan didn't know. What Sharon would never accept. Ryan had been cheating. While I was in the second trimester. While I was throwing up, crying, and going to appointments alone. I found out. He denied it. Of course. So I moved on quietly. I didn't cheat, we were in a separation phase at the time. Maryland doesn't always require waiting periods for divorce if there's adultery. During that separation, I met someone. Let's call him Mateo. Gentle, artistic, respectful. We went out a few times. Nothing serious. But when I realized I was pregnant, I did the math. And I told him. He asked no questions. He said, whatever you decide, I'll support you. Ryan never asked questions. Never looked at timelines. Just assumed. I didn't correct him. Because by the time we moved back in, I knew what I was going to do. I was going to wait. Watch. Document. Prepare. Kat helped me gather every scrap of evidence. I had copies of everything. I had backup drives. I had a legal plan. All I needed was for Ryan and his mother to push me far enough. That moment in the hospital room was more than far enough. The scream was so loud it echoed down the hall. The baby started crying. I held him tighter, trying to calm him. Sharon was pacing, waving the papers, yelling about lies, betrayal, ungrateful women. Nurse Mel stepped in front of her and said, "Ma'am, please lower your voice. This is a recovery room. You're upsetting other patients." Sharon snapped back, "This is a family matter." Mel didn't move. "It's also a hospital. You need to leave." That's when Sharon turned to Ryan and said, "Are you going to let her do this to me?" To her. Not to you. Not to the baby. To her. Ryan didn't answer. He just stood there, papers in hand, like he was trying to figure out if this was real. Then, without saying a word, Sharon tried to grab the bassinet. Mel physically stepped between her and my son. Like full-on defense stance. "I'll never forget that." "I'm calling security," Mel said. "Step back now." Sharon tried to argue. Too late. 2 hospital security guards showed up within 2 minutes. They asked her to leave. She shouted. Cried. Said she had rights as a grandmother. They didn't care. They walked her out. That left me, Ryan, the baby, and Nurse Mel. I didn't say anything. I was too tired. Too raw. I held Caleb. I felt like the only thing I wanted was to sleep for a week. Ryan sat down. He looked shell-shocked. Eyes red. Jaw locked. He said, finally, "Is the baby really not mine?" I said, "You know the answer. You've known for a while." He nodded. Whispered, "I thought so." Silence. Then he asked, "Why didn't you tell me?" I looked at him. "Why didn't you stop sleeping with other women when I was pregnant?" He didn't respond. That was the last time I let myself feel sorry for him. The next morning, my phone blew up. Texts from Sharon, Ryan's brother, even Ryan's aunt. All of them furious. Telling me I used Ryan, that I was ripping apart a good man, that I was keeping a child away from his real family. One text from Sharon said, "You tricked him. But God sees all." Another said, "You don't deserve that baby." I didn't respond to any of them. What I did do was forward every single message to Kat. She was already prepping for court. And she told me something that changed everything. I didn't even know that was a thing. But apparently, in Maryland, a grandparent can file for emergency visitation or even custody rights if they believe the child is in danger or being kept away unfairly. Sharon filed less than 24 hours after being removed from the hospital. She claimed I was emotionally unstable, refusing to feed the child properly, and not allowing family bonding. She even brought up the fact that the baby wasn't Ryan's, claiming it showed moral unfitness. Kat called me the moment she saw the petition. "They're going to try to take him." I felt like I couldn't breathe. The next thing I heard, Sharon had gone to her church and told everyone that I was an unfit mother who cheated and lied and stole a child out of wedlock. She said I was keeping Caleb as punishment against the family. People from her church started messaging me. Some polite, some nasty. One lady messaged, "We're praying for you to repent." Another said, "Give the boy to his real family. It's never too late to do the right thing." I was sleep-deprived, hormonal, and recovering from childbirth. And I was being attacked by strangers for doing the only thing that felt safe for me and my son. Ryan? He said nothing. Here's the part that burned. Ryan and I had agreed that Caleb wasn't his. That he had no legal responsibility. He said he didn't want to be involved. Then Sharon got to him. I got served papers that said Ryan was seeking shared custody in the best interest of the child. He wasn't claiming to be the father. He was claiming that since he was there at the birth and had been emotionally invested, he deserved to be in Caleb's life. And the worst part? He aligned with Sharon in the court filing. The woman who tried to grab my baby, who screamed in a hospital room, who wanted me gone from the picture entirely. They wanted to present themselves as the stable parental figures. Kat went into overdrive. We filed for a restraining order against Sharon. We attached the hospital's incident report, video footage, and all the messages. We also filed a motion to dismiss Ryan's custody request on the grounds that he was not the biological father, had no legal standing, and was trying to use the situation to gain control. I was scheduled to appear in court 2 weeks postpartum, 2 weeks after stitches, 2 weeks after no sleep, 2 weeks after nearly losing my mind. And I walked in holding Caleb in my arms, shaking but ready. 2 weeks after giving birth, I stood in court. Hair tied up, oversized sweatshirt, baby Caleb in a sling on my chest. I felt like a ghost. Pale, sore, still healing. Kat was next to me, holding all the files. Across from us sat Ryan. Clean suit. Fresh haircut. Looking like someone on a job interview. And next to him, Sharon. Wearing all black, like she was at a funeral. A little dramatic, even for her. The judge came in. They opened with Sharon's emergency request for grandparental visitation and temporary custody. Their lawyer read a statement about how the child was being hidden from his paternal family, how the mother refused all communication, and how the baby was in danger of emotional harm from being isolated. Kat handed over the hospital incident report, the screenshots of Sharon trying to move the baby into her home without consent, and the DNA test. The judge leaned over and asked, "So, just to confirm, Mr. Ryan is not the biological father?" Kat answered, "Correct, Your Honor." Just as things were wrapping up and it looked like we were going to get a dismissal, their lawyer said, "Your Honor, we request a delay on the motion to dismiss. We have new evidence showing Mr. Ryan may, in fact, be the biological father." Everything froze. I turned to Kat. She blinked hard. What are they talking about? Ryan sat there, silent. Then Sharon leaned over and whispered to the lawyer, who stood and said, "Mr. Ryan has taken a private paternity test, and the results show a match." My stomach dropped. I stared at Ryan. "You faked that," I said. "That's not possible." I had taken the real test. At a verified clinic. Mateo had been there. The judge ordered both sides to submit their test results and scheduled a follow-up hearing. We had 2 weeks to prove our case. Kat dug in immediately. Turns out Sharon had found some sketchy clinic in rural Virginia, not even legally certified, where they offered personalized paternity results for a fee. Ryan had gone there. Given a swab. They gave him a paper with a match. It wasn't a real lab. It wasn't even a real report. Kat got in touch with Mateo. He agreed to submit a second DNA test, officially, through the court. When the results came back, 100% match to Mateo. 0% match to Ryan. The judge was not amused. Sharon and Ryan got an official warning about fraudulent submission of evidence. Still, Sharon refused to back down. She said in the hallway, "You can lie to the courts, but that baby is ours. And one way or another, he's coming home." A few days later, I got a call from someone unexpected. Ryan's ex-girlfriend from college. Let's call her Jenna. We'd never spoken before, but she found my number through Kat's legal website. She said she had something important to tell me. She met me at a coffee shop near the courthouse. She looked nervous. Sat down and said, "Sharon did this to me, too." I blinked. She told me that 10 years ago, she got pregnant with Ryan's baby. They were only dating a few months. Sharon pressured her not to keep it. When Jenna said she wanted to raise the baby, Sharon threatened to sue her family for custodial interference and spread rumors that Jenna was mentally unstable. Jenna ended up moving across the country and never filed for child support just to get away from Sharon. Then she said the words that burned into me. Sharon doesn't want a grandchild. She wants a second chance to raise a kid her way. She sees babies as do-overs. I asked why she was telling me now. Her answer? Because you're the only one I've seen who's actually fighting her and winning. Every day I was getting new texts, emails, voicemails from people connected to Sharon. I got a typed letter in the mail from her church's women's group. It said, "We're praying for your heart to soften, for the sake of the child." Another one said, "We urge you to consider the father's place in the child's life. Forgiveness is the Lord's command." They still didn't know Ryan wasn't the father. Sharon was telling people that the DNA test had been tampered with. She claimed I was having a breakdown and needed help. She was trying to build a case to get emergency temporary custody granted for the child's safety. Just when I thought I had everything in place, Mateo stopped answering my calls. No texts. No emails. Nothing. I panicked. Kat tried contacting him legally, no response. I called his work. They said he'd taken a leave of absence. It made no sense. He had been so involved, so supportive. I was sitting on the couch feeding Caleb when I got the message. You need to know something. Sharon approached me last week. She said if I don't step back, she'll come after my family. She knows where my sister lives. I'm sorry. I didn't want to disappear. But I can't protect you if she comes for me. She had threatened Mateo's family. This woman, this grandmother, had crossed into something else entirely. 3 weeks later, the hearing for full custody was scheduled. I had everything ready. The real paternity test witness statements, screenshots, audio clips, printed texts, the fraudulent DNA test, and proof it came from an unlicensed, pay-to-print scam lab, hospital reports about Sharon's behavior, a written affidavit from Jenna, Ryan's ex. Even without Mateo, who was still in hiding, the case was solid. I wore a black blazer. Kat helped me pick. Caleb was with a sitter. I wanted the judge to see me, not as hormonal or angry, but as focused. Court was packed. Sharon's church friends came. So did 2 of Ryan's cousins. Kat whispered, they're trying to build the image of family support. Sharon looked smug. Ryan looked tense. Kat looked like she had fire in her eyes. Then the judge walked in. We went first. Kat walked the judge through everything. Slowly, clearly. Then came the fraudulent DNA test. When Kat presented the email trail that showed Sharon paid $500 for it under a fake name, people in the room gasped. Ryan's lawyer objected. The judge overruled. Next, Kat pulled out the statement from Jenna. She read it aloud. When I was 19, I was pregnant with Ryan's child. Sharon threatened me, harassed my family, and made me believe I was too young and broken to raise a child. I left to protect my baby. Now I see she hasn't changed. She's doing the same thing again. Sharon stood up and shouted, that girl was a liar then and she's a liar now. The judge slammed the gavel. Sit down. Everyone stared. And that's when Ryan cracked. He stood up. His hands were shaking, voice trembling, but loud enough to hear. She's right. Dead silence. It's all true. Everything. My mom told me to lie about the DNA test. She said we could make the baby legally mine and then ease me out of the picture. I didn't want to go along with it, but I didn't know how to say no to her. He looked right at me. I was scared you'd leave if you knew how much control she had. I lied. I let it happen. I'm sorry. Sharon was frozen. Then she hissed at Ryan, you coward. He turned to her, voice cracking now. You ruined everything. The judge was quiet for a moment. Then said, I've seen a lot of manipulation in family court. But this is disturbing. You tried to use the court system to steal a child that wasn't even biologically related to your family. He looked straight at Sharon. This ends now. He granted me full sole custody. No visitation. No contact. Restraining order against Sharon for me and Caleb for 5 years. Then he looked at Ryan. You are not the father. You will not pursue further claims unless invited to do so by the petitioner. I nodded. That invite would never come. Outside the courtroom, Sharon tried to rush up to me. Kat blocked her. So did one of the officers. But that didn't stop her from screaming. You think you won? You'll regret this. You hear me? You're a single mother now. You're alone. But I wasn't shaking. I said the last thing I ever said to her. No. I'm free. She was escorted out. Ryan didn't follow her. He just sat down in a hallway chair and buried his face in his hands. Kat and I sat in her car in silence for a bit. I finally said, I thought I'd feel proud. But I don't. I just feel tired. She nodded. It's not about winning. It's about surviving. I got a voicemail from Ryan. He apologized again. Said he was in therapy. Said he realized he was more afraid of his mom than he'd ever admitted. Then he said, I loved Caleb. Even though he wasn't mine. That's what hurts the most. But I know I don't deserve to be in his life. Not now. I deleted the message. Not out of anger. But because I knew nothing he said would change anything. A month later, Mateo came back. He showed up outside my apartment holding a stuffed elephant and an envelope. He looked thinner. Tired. I had to make sure she couldn't hurt my family, he said. Now I'm here. If you'll let me be. Inside the envelope was a notarized statement confirming he was Caleb's biological father and consenting to full legal responsibility. I didn't say anything. I just opened the door wider. Sharon's church turned on her. Once the truth came out, they issued a formal letter saying she was no longer welcome to lead or speak on behalf of the congregation. Ryan moved out of Baltimore. Last I heard, he's in Pittsburgh. Quiet. Keeps to himself. Sharon? She's probably still telling people I'm a liar. That's fine. She doesn't matter anymore. Sometimes people say things like, that must have been satisfying. It wasn't. It was painful. Exhausting. but it gave me one thing I hadn't had in years. Peace. Caleb is almost 1 now. He loves oranges, hates socks, and tries to climb everything. Mateo reads to him every night. Kat still comes over every Sunday with iced coffee and court gossip. And me? I'm healing. I learned that family isn't about blood or shared names or Sunday dinners. Family is about who fights for you, even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard. And I will never, ever let anyone take that from me again.